This is Red Moon Role-Playing.
In the last episode of Masks of Nyarlathotep, our characters went about their respective investigations. Shelby Shattuck visited the offices of Prospero House Publishing, where he picked up reams of paper evidence pointing to varied investigations that Jackson Elias had been poking at, to put it mildly. It seems Elias had been touring the world, visiting all kinds of unusual and exotic places. To what end? We still don't know, but it is most certainly connected to the Carlisle expedition. Meanwhile, Felix Bauer decided he would try his hand at the New York Times. It was at the New York Times office that he encountered Rebecca Schoenberg, a reporter and journalist who has written a story validating the NYPD's accusation that Jackson Elias is guilty of 8 murders across New York City. Rebecca Schoenberg threw some shade onto Captain Foster as possibly corrupt, but wasn't incredibly helpful in terms of providing the kind of evidence needed for Felix, that Jackson is being framed, that there is potentially connections back to Peru in everything going on. Schoenberg is undoubtedly a decent person as far as journalists go, but she is also committed to getting a story out with her name on it, so her loyalties would always be in question. Which takes us to Madeline Hopper, who has decided to take the 30-mile journey downriver to Sing Sing, the prison most well known for Old Sparky. The electric chair, the method of execution introduced within living memory in New York City, a grotesque way of murdering someone fated to die by the American justice system, somehow reasoned as the most humane way of ending a life, discharging hundreds of volts through a human strapped into a chair, conscious to experience it. In someone's mind, that's justice. Perhaps not Madeline Hopper's. Madeline, when you arrive, you are not unaccompanied. Carlton Ramsey is here as well, in the waiting room with you. Carlton is the solicitor for Jackson Elias, and he makes some small talk with you. You're Madeline Hopper, right?
I am. Mr. Ramsey, I presume?
Yeah, I heard you checking in at the, desk. I hope the guards weren't too rough with you, checking for files and cakes and all this and that.
No, they were fine. Have you heard anything? Have you heard anything from him or about him?
No, just from Mr. Kensington. I got the news. I hurried over here as fast as I could. They don't allow lawyer visits at night time. You have to wait. But he checks his watch. He should be opening up soon. Do you want to come in with me? I'll obviously ask Mr. Elias if he's happy speaking with me in your presence, but or do you want to wait until I'm done?
No, I'd appreciate being present, if possible, but there may come a point where I need to speak with him privately.
Of course. They may restrict that, you understand. Quite often it's one-on-one visitations, or after one visit's done. I've been here lots of times, Mrs. Hopper, or Miss Hopper, I should say. I'm sure you have had no reason to have a visit Sing Sing before.
I've had reasons, but this is my first time here. I'm not overly familiar with the justice system here. What are we allowed to bring or send to Jackson while he's here?
And he explains to you, I don't recommend passing anything over to Mr. Elias, Miss Harper, just in case the guards are feeling antsy.
I nod, understanding that on multiple levels, and I don't want to. Okay.
There is a buzz, and some iron bars slide across, permitting you entry to the prisoner complex. You're not going to be in Gen Pop. such as it is in the 1920s. Everyone knows what Alcatraz looks like. Sing Sing is actually a cut above that, but it is still iron-barred cells on multiple levels. However, in Sing Sing, everyone gets a desk, everyone gets a bed. You're not sleeping on a concrete slab. You may have to share with someone, but everyone gets their own toilet facility in their cell. By prison standards, it's pretty modern, and that's because of the most recent warden who has implemented some drastic overhauls in Sing Sing prison. Nevertheless, this is not where Jackson is being kept. Jackson is being kept in holding, and there's a reason for that. He has not been found guilty of a crime. He's been charged. Ordinarily, in this case, he would either be taken to court in a day or two, bail would be set, if it would be set, and he could be released to his own recognizance. It's unlikely in the case where you're being charged with 8 murders that you would be given the luxury of bail. However, at this time, normally he would be in a precinct jail cell, waiting, processing. As it is, maybe due to the severity of his crimes, alleged crimes, he has been taken straight to prison and the most secure place for him, which is effectively solitary confinement until he goes through the court process. On one hand, that's good for him. On another, he's much farther away from anyone who could help him than he has any reason to be.
Right.
And so you walk down corridors where your heels clip and clop and echo behind you. It's almost the sound of a woman's footfalls in a prison like this that generate the catcalling. People don't need to see you to know that this is a woman walking through the prison. All kinds of obnoxious, crude slurs are called your way. Occasionally there's a clang of a stick, a truncheon on bars. Prisoners are told to quieten down. That only lasts about 10 seconds before someone newly whistles, makes some grotesque noise, or other revolting implication. You get an apologetic smile from Carlton Ramsey as if he has any way of controlling this.
I return with a smile of acceptance, and Ramsey may be able to recognize that my internal ability to just turn that volume all the way down is rather impressive.
He gives a nod at that. Thankfully, you won't have to pass through any of the populated areas based on where Mr. Elias is being held. The guard takes you down another set of corridors. These look more like offices than cells. He gestures interrogation at these rooms. You'll be surprised how many prisoners, once they're in here, decide that they're going to start copping to other crimes or telling the officers in charge that their cellmate is responsible for this crime or that. This is where they come to do it.
Understood. This is better maintained than I expected.
Oh, Sing Sing's a marvel, Miss Harper. I mean, I'm not suggesting I would want to stay here, but as far as New York prisons go, it's the best.
This is due to the new warden?
Yeah, he's a real saint. Well, I say that record numbers of people are going to the chair, but that ain't on the warden's account. That's the justice system.
I nod, and I just throw a slightly hopeful glance in his direction. Do you know him, personally?
We've had dinners. No, not one-on-one, you understand. We've been to the same parties. Solicitors, lawyers, wardens, governors, chiefs of police. We sometimes rub shoulders with each other. It's good to remind ourselves that even when some of us are defending the accused or prosecuting, in the end we're all on the same side, ain't we?
Well, we should be, yes. I smile patiently, and I'll try not to hide the weight of exactly how I feel about that statement from him.
It is in one of these interview rooms that you actually find Jackson Elias. He is not in a cell right now. He has been here all night, you wouldn't wonder. Maybe there's been a brief excursion beyond, because Jackson has been beaten badly. One of his eyes is swollen up, his jaw is askew, his neck shows bruises, and you can see Captain Foster is in there with him. This seems extrajudicial. A captain of police is with him here in the prison. Excuse me, says Carlton. What's happened to my client? He fell over. The captain steps away from him, where he is sat at one of these interview tables. He caused a fuss, so we were escorting him here. Any of the guards will speak as witnesses, and he tried to run. He's lucky. He's lucky that he didn't catch a bullet.
My eyes are locked on to Jackson, but I know better than to speak. And I know better than to respond emotionally to what I'm seeing in front of me, despite the fact that everything in me wants to.
Jackson is clearly hurt. You can see there are tears in his eyes. He is in pain, but there is also a defiance there. He is not broken, even though he looks it. Well, you have your time, he says, checking his pocket watch. I'll be back and continue questioning Mr. Elias once you're done. No, you won't. Any questioning will be done with me in attendance, and I can see what you've been doing here, Captain, and I don't like it. I do not like this. Do you understand me? Honest to God. Mr. Ramsey, isn't it? Yeah, that's right, I know you. I never touched him. I'll be waiting, having some of the awful coffee in this place. You kids have fun. Oh, one thing. We had to take a quick trip to the infirmary, didn't we, Jackson? Because when he fell down the stairs, his jaw got displaced. It's temporarily wired shut, just to make sure there's no lasting damage. So, I don't think Mr. Elias is going to be saying much, but he pulls a notepad from a pocket, throws it on the table, it slides into Jackson. He doesn't give him a pen. You can write your responses, Mr. Elias. Just be careful not to trip on your way out and break your fingers as well.
Physically shaking. But I know that my words are uninvited in a space like this, and any response I give at this point can only add to his suffering. So physically trembling in the doorway, but I don't say a word. I can't. I know better.
It's been a long night, and he walks off, leaving the two of you with Jackson Elias. The look of concern on Carlton Ramsey's face is severe. It looks like he wants to go over and hug his client, but he holds himself back. Dear God. We have the room. They're not listening or nothing like that. Jesus. Jackson, he uses his first name.
Ramsey can demonstrate restraint. I don't have to. It's a beeline immediately flooding towards Jackson as I do everything I can to wrap him up as safely and protectively as possible. Oh, Jackson. You don't deserve this. Are you able to speak? And this is as I'm very gently just like turning his chin. Again, very gently. I'm not trying to further damage this dislocated jaw, but just kind of giving him a once over while I have him enveloped.
Jackson tries to move his jaw, and the look of pain that flashes across his face it's extreme. And so he shakes his head gently, but Carlton Ramsey takes that as a cue and pulls a pen from his pocket. Whatever you gotta write, you write it here. I can write first. We can have a dialogue like that. That's fine. I tell you what, I'm gonna let you two talk for a while. I'm gonna go and speak to Captain Foster and make sure that there ain't gonna be no questioning done without a solicitor present from here on out. And he storms out, leaving the two of you together. Now, clearly, from a role-playing perspective, it's difficult to convey a dialogue when one of the participants can't speak. So while it will seem to be a normal conversation, this is a conversation that will take longer than usual in real terms. He will be writing out his responses to you. So go ahead.
So just to add to the further level of complication on that, I am going to be having this entire conversation in Kashka. Just in case there's any type of eavesdroppers, people listening in, or things of that nature.
Guards do occasionally pass. Yes, guards do occasionally pass, but he is mercifully only cuffed by the ankles, and they are not able to listen in Kashka.
Beautiful. It is the worst question to ask in a time like this, but it's the one question she genuinely needs to know. Are you okay?
He doesn't really need to write a response to that. But he does write one, and it is longer than maybe you're thinking. No, I'm not okay. This is a great injustice, but I understand why it's been done. I've crossed some people that I shouldn't have, but they needed to be crossed.
Who are these people?
He continues writing. I didn't think that the law would stop me. It's still a cult, Maddie. It's always a cult. The cult of the bloody tongue. An African death cult, I'm sure of it. Based out of the city. In Harlem. Right in the heart of Harlem. I've been travelling the world trying to track down these monsters, and they were right here. All along. And just as I was getting close, the NYPD come knocking. The only thing I can't figure is why the NYPD would spring to the defense of followers of ancient African religions. It doesn't quite make sense.
So either they've been infiltrated or paid, or this cult is simply pointing an easy monster to chase you down with. Discrediting you is going to be infinitely more damaging than killing you outright.
He agrees. I think that's exactly what they're trying to do. I think they're trying to make any of my research seem fabulous. Not in a good way. He continues writing. I'm fairly certain that the work they gave to my jaw was intentional as well. They want me scared, and they want to send a message. They want to send a message to other people like me, like you, who would investigate this, that there is no one they can't reach. Just killing me would be far too easy. Anyone could murder me. But putting me through the process, getting me jailed, getting me found guilty, if they do, and I'm sure they will, unless you stop them, that would put the fear of God into anyone.
I take a deep, steadying breath, because I know the odds that we're up against here. Jackson knows how hard all of us will throw ourselves at this, but numbers are numbers. This doesn't look good for us. This isn't even an upward battle. It's an impossible one. It's one we're still going to fight. So I take a deep, shuddering breath as I'm just watching his hands go across the paper. I'm introducing questions as he writes.
Mm-hmm.
Talk me through what happened when you arrived in the room 410.
I've been staying in room 410 for the past few days, getting my bearings after having returned to New York. I moved a lot of my materials in there, things that I had picked up during my journeying around the world. There were various articles I had sent to Jonah Kensington at Prospero House, ones I wanted him to keep safe, but other things I wanted close by. I had been down in the lobby of the hotel. I hadn't travelled far, and by the time I got back to my room, it was to meet with you, all of you. I opened the door, I saw the body, and I should have left then, but I wasn't even checking whether the person was alive. I knew that they couldn't be alive. I wanted to see if I recognized them. I wanted to see if I had any kind of clue as to who this was. And that was my biggest mistake out of a series of huge mistakes, because after all of that, I didn't recognize him at all. I got my hands bloody, and the worst of it, Maddie, is I saw the tool they used to do it. It was right there underneath my desk, behind one of the legs. They must have planted it there. A Peruvian flip knife, one that I had bought when we were in Lima. It's not like I have been showing it off to everyone who's been asking, but there will be enough people who know that it's mine.
Right. Right.
It will have my prints on it.
Right.
If the police have it, then I'm cooked. I staggered out of the room. I should have picked it up, but then I would have had the murder weapon on me. So I staggered out of the room, and that's when I saw you, and everything went to even further down into hell.
Jackson, there was so little you could have done in that situation. The deck was stacked against you walking into that room. It's been stacked against you since you started this investigation. Okay. Shelby has gone to Prospero House to speak with Jonah. Felix right now should be on his way to the New York Times to talk to this. Is it Rebecca Rosenberg, maybe?
Rebecca Schosenberg, he writes out. She's a good writer, but I don't know. I don't know her well enough to... My thinking... This all connects to the Carlisle expedition. He starts writing out hastily because at some point the guards are going to say visiting hours are over, and his solicitor hasn't even spoken to him yet. You can see that Carlton Ramsay is now waiting outside. He's being patient about it. This is all to do with the Carlisle expedition, Maddie. I don't think they're dead. Not all of them. I think some of them survived. I think that this is a lot worse than a bunch of white, wealthy tourists getting murdered by natives. I think they went out to Kenya to do something, to enact some kind of ritual not dissimilar to the thing we encountered in Peru. I don't know if they were intending on doing it. I don't know if they were caught, if they were enlisted, if that was their intention all along. I think you need to speak with Carlisle's sister, Erica. She is in the city. You might be able to find out some answers, but be careful. I don't know how deep she is in on this, or whether she knows whether they're alive, but she is the best connection to the Carlisle expedition. All of this, and he is writing now, is a scrawl. All of this is tied to the Carlisle expedition. The threats, the paranoia, it only worsened when I started digging into it, but the further I dug, the more I felt like I was getting closer to the truth. And these markings, the markings that were on the victim's face, this is the cult of the bloody tongue. They are the cult that the Carlisles, whether they knew it or not, the expedition was getting close to. I found evidence of members of the expedition in different parts of the world, Maddie. I think they've spread out since they went to Kenya. I think they are doing things, leading cults, leading rituals, doing things in different parts of the world, and I don't know all of it. But someone has got to stop them. At which point, Ramsay walks in.
Ramsay walks in, and I'm completely oblivious to the fact that somebody might be coming in behind me because I'm so completely engulfed in just every single letter that's being scrawled onto this paper. And the second that door unlatches or I hear somebody, I take that paper, all of that paperwork immediately, and just clutch it to my chest. And then I'll whip around to see who's there, hoping and praying that it's not Foster.
Miss Harper, I have about 10 minutes with my client now. He sees that you have that paperwork clutched to your chest. I'm gonna suggest something. Do you have $1, Miss Harper?
Yes.
Or a cigarette?
No, I have $1.
He puts his hand out.
I will very quickly go into my satchel and I will hand him $1.
I am now your lawyer, and anything you say to me is confidential and I will not be able to use against you in a court of law. You understand that?
Yes, I understand that. And just relief washes over, not over my voice, but over my eyes, my expression, even my body language. I'm able to unclench my jaw. I'm at least able to lower my shoulders. Yes, I understand.
In that case, you hand me that paperwork. I can take it out as legal documents. They will not search them. It is not their business. If you carry it out, they will read whatever my client, your friend, has written.
I just look over towards Jackson for confirmation that he's okay with that.
Jackson gives as much of a nod as he can, more of a blink.
Okay. I will surrender that paperwork over to his solicitor.
I'll get it back to you. Don't worry. I won't even read it if you don't want me to, but I will make sure you have it.
I nod. Okay. Thank you. I'm going to go back to Jackson. I'm going to very gently nuzzle him forehead to forehead, trying to do everything I can not to apply any pressure to what's left of his jaw. And then I'm going to kiss each of his fingers. We'll see you through this. I promise.
There are tears once again in his eyes, but they're not the same as tears of pain.
Those tears are reciprocated in mine, but I can't. He doesn't deserve to see me cry. One of us has to get through this moment.
I'll meet you outside, huh?
Yes.
Miss Harper?
Yes. Apologies.
We'll go back together. I've already spoken to the warden. There's not going to be any one-on-one sit-downs between Mr. Elias and anyone in this prison.
Thank you, Mr. Ramsey. I will throw one more look at Jackson Elias, and then I'm going to leave that room. It's almost fleeing from the room, but it's not fleeing from him as much as it is fleeing from the hopelessness that this entire situation carries.
Indeed. And so some time passes. And my question to you, bold investigators, is do you want to get together at this point to share what you've learned, or are there other individual avenues you want to explore? I know you were talking about going to see Dr. Mordecai Lemming as a group, but is there anything any of you wish to do individually? It is perfectly okay with me as Keeper if you do want to still do solo scenes.
Mine was just really quick. All I was going to do is I was going to use my library use to just get copies of the other articles about the murders just so we have those on record.
Excellent. Yes, you can do that. They were all published in the New York Times. They are easy to find.
And I had intended to visit with Lieutenant Poole to learn more about what kind of evidence he might have, what kind of things he were looking into before he was, before Captain Foster took over.
So, Shelby Shattuck, after you part ways with Jonah Kensington, you make your way to the city library, tracking down all the newspaper articles you can that relate to these 8 murders, trying to find out anything, any connection, any research that might be valuable, making copies, and where copies are unavailable, hand annotating so that you have all of the information you can get. It takes you most of the day. You skip breakfast and lunch. You have no appetite anyway.
No, not at all.
But by the end of the day, as the sun is setting, you feel a profound sense of exhaustion, almost despair. You've seen a lot in the last couple of years, but somehow this injustice is a magnitude worse because of how human it is. Now, Felix, you are not done yet with your questioning, and you decide you're going to swing by the 7A precinct to speak with Lieutenant Poole. There were some questions you wanted to ask him. It's the middle of the day when you arrive, having already had your conversation at the New York Times in the morning. 7A is not what you would call a bastion of modern policing, even by 1920s standards. It's a dusty building. As you enter it, there's this thick smell of wood varnish. Almost more like you're stepping into a library than a place of police investigations and criminality. It gives everything here an old, Victorian taste. Like there's sap on the roof of your mouth. And it's matched by the officers you see here. While the NYPD hasn't been in existence for even a century yet, it would appear that most of the officers in 7A are about that old. This is a place where officers are shunted off to die. or not investigate true police work. Nevertheless, you get an audience with Lieutenant Poole, who is probably the youngest person here by some 20 years. He offers you a cigarette. I prefer to, if we're gonna chat, let's chat out on the street. Let's go for a walk, huh? Park's nearby. Let's get some fresh air.
That's a good idea. Yeah, let's do that. A walk will do us good.
I wouldn't light a cigarette in there. I wouldn't risk setting the varnish on fire.
I'll laugh at that. Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you again for treating us like people. It was really nice. I'm very grateful.
Fine, that's fine. I mean, we're all people, right? It's a nasty business your friends got caught up in. And I'm sorry to see such decent folk as yourselves getting caught up in it as well.
Yeah, I agree. Look, I know that you were doing a great job investigating what had happened before the captain took over. And I can't help but feel like you were probably looking into the right things. You were probably pursuing the actual perpetrator behind this.
Who have you been talking to, Mr. Bauer? It sounds like you're doing something a little outside the books.
You can say that. You can say that, yeah. But I know Jackson, and I know that there's no way that he could have done all this. He's innocent. There's someone else behind all this, and I'm convinced that the traces that the tracks that you were following, they were going to lead to that person or that group of people who are actually behind these killings. But you were stopped before you could complete your investigation, and I would like to continue that investigation. You could join me in that if you wanted to, but I also understand if you can't. But I can.
I really can't. I've just been moved to this precinct because I kept pushing where I probably shouldn't. I wish that I could, but I got a family and I can't risk being demoted to sergeant, you understand?
I understand, but Lieutenant, can you really spend the rest of your life in this dead end? I mean, this is going to be the rest of your career. Unless we change that. Unless we find that Captain Foster, he faked it all. The scandal, imagine.
Mr. Bauer, that's a bold accusation, he says, then takes a long drag on his cigarette, and then coughs. Captain Foster, he and I ain't bosom buddies, we're not Freemasons or nothing. He has his way of doing things, and I have mine. And he's a well-connected man.
He's corrupt, is what you're saying.
I didn't say that.
No, but that's what I heard. And it's probably the truth. We can expose that.
Mr. Bauer, you're playing with fire when I say that. I don't mean, Captain Foster, as I say, he's well-connected. He's got lots of friends. I mean, he's got friends all the way up in the city. If you start poking your nose into his business, you're gonna get your nose chopped off, probably worse.
It's possible.
You want my advice, Mr. Bauer?
Just forget about all this. Go back to Germany. Live a good life.
No. I am not suggesting you forget your friend. I'm suggesting you find other ways of helping him. You hire a good defense. You find witnesses to his whereabouts when he's accused of doing certain things. If that's something I can't do, if that's something the captain's not going to do, or his task force is not going to do, then that's something you can do. But and he finally breaks this. I'm warning you. If you put your hand in the biscuit jar, the Captain Foster's biscuit jar, he'll take your hand. He'll take your goddamn arm.
You know, worse things have been trying to take my arm recently. I'm not particularly worried about a captain.
He sighs. He's exasperated. There's actually a weight that shifts from Lieutenant Poole. You are insistent. You're not going to be dissuaded from this. There are plenty who would be, who would take the hint. But with a certain amount of resignation in his voice, he speaks on. Emerson Imports. That's where I was digging around. I spoke to the man who worked there. You see, a couple of the victims, they said in the police reports and in the press, they didn't have any connection, but that ain't true. 2 of them had worked, not for long, but they had worked for a while at Emerson Imports in the city on West 47th Street. And so I spoke to the guy who runs the place. I interviewed him. I wanted to know whether he recognized them, or whether he remembered them in any way. Did they have any kind of contact with each other? And, I mean, Arthur Emerson, he seems like a decent enough fella, but he doesn't have a great memory. He's old. He's in his 70s, and so going through a list of old employees didn't get me much of anywhere. But then I asked him, because this was around the time your Mr. Elias was on our map. I said, do you know Jackson Elias? His eyes lit up like I had reminded him of his firstborn son or something. He said that Elias had been checking importers to find connections with Mombasa. It's a city halfway across the world. Because Emerson is apparently a U.S. agent for a Mombasan importer. And he gets his notepad out, flicks through it. A man by the name of Aja Singh, in Mombasa, that is. Now, there ain't nobody in New York by that name, but I was able to find out that Aja Singh's only U.S. account happens to be a place on Ransom Court, which is in Harlem. It's a place called the Juju House. They sell African fetishes, masks, things that make people remember the homeland, I guess. And I filed that report, and then, zip, that's when my involvement in the investigation was done. That was it. That was the last lead I followed. Was able to follow. And I did some sniffing around on the Juju House off the books afterwards, trying to find out what I could find out. It's a fairly exclusive crowd. The shop in that place is like a gallery of African antiquities and the like. Not for people like me, you understand. I don't begrudge it or nothing, but it makes having a cover quite difficult. But I try to get friendly with the guy who runs the place. Off on his lunch break, he always takes lunch at the same time every day. He's always out between the hours of 1 and 2. And so I caught him for lunch, and as I was talking to him, I felt a hand on my shoulder. One of the police officers from the 14th in Harlem. The captain's officers. Saying, you need to move on now, Lieutenant. Leave this man alone. This isn't your case anymore. So I gotta think that I've got my own blue-blooded compatriots keeping their eye on me right now, or keeping their eye on this Juju House, but somehow that leads them to Jackson Elias just as I was led to Jackson Elias.
Yeah. I think you were very, very close to the truth. Very close. Too close. That's why they stopped you. And gave you another plausible explanation for everything. Gave everyone another plausible explanation. But I think the answers are there. They must be. Thank you, Lieutenant Poole. I think this is exactly what I was looking for.
Just be careful, Mr. Bauer. You and your friends. Yeah. I probably don't need to say it, but you're walking through a minefield right now. These things have a tendency to blow your leg off if you're not careful.
Yeah. I know a thing or two about walking through minefields. I'm sure I'll be all right. Just have to be very careful.
He nods, gives you another cigarette for the road, and heads back to the station.
And I look out at the park again, and I think to myself, yeah, there we have it. That's where the truth lies. That could explain everything. I'll need to tell the others.
And so you make your way back to Madeline's apartment, and Bridgett. Madeline was the only character I didn't find out. Are you doing anything else individually, or are you happy now to reconvene with the rest of the group?
I am 100% good to reconvene. Let's unpack.
Okay, the solicitor has indeed handed you back your paperwork, and on your way back, you both take the same train. Carlton Ramsay does make it clear to you that he is trying everything he possibly can to ensure that no violence, no brutality is visited upon Jackson Elias while he's incarcerated. But, he says, he's in as secure a place as he can be right now. I will do everything I can, but if there are people who want to get to him, Miss Harper, they may be able to get to him. My hope, and it's a pretty vain hope, is they've sent the message they want to send now. Anything further would be over-egging the pudding.
I nod tightly in agreement as tears that are overflowing from my ducts are just being toggled out of my eyes. It's like, secure, yeah. You can tell that to his lower jaw. And then I freeze, and I immediately put my right hand onto his thigh. I'm sorry. I apologize.
I know. He sent me a letter not long ago, Miss Harper. I've had it stored in my office. I mean, what else am I supposed to do with it? Talking about what to do in the event of his death. I wonder if he even thought he was going to make it back to New York. I'm glad he did, but under these circumstances, I'll look after his financial concerns, his business concerns. Don't you worry about that. You do what you gotta, or what you can.
We will. If you can manage his safety from inside there, we'll do everything we can on the outside to manage the rest of this investigation.
He gave me permission to say something to you. Specifically you, Miss Harper, and this isn't where I usually conduct business, but it will have to do. He's opening his accounts to you, Miss Harper, which is to say, he wrote down for me, if you need to travel, if you need to leave the country, for good or bad reasons, his dollars are your dollars, and that extends to your friends as well, I'm sure, but he wrote your name.
I wince as tears continue rolling down my face. I'm not openly sobbing as much as just involuntarily crying. We'll make good use of everything that he offers us, and we'll do everything we can I'll do everything I can to save him.
It's within the hour that you are back with your companions. A trip to the prison is no small matter. It's not brief, and it is exhausting. It's an inhospitable, unpleasant environment, and now you are back in Harlem, where at least there's some comfort of familiarity, and of course the comfort of your friends. Once you all meet up again, there is a lot of compulsory hugging. A few more tears are shed. Rupert tries to brighten everyone's spirits, having acquired a rather dubious hooch from somewhere, but he insists it's very good. Well, he goes on to say, well, Arturo, he deserves the credit, found the most glorious speakeasy not that far from here, and we use that as our rallying point. Speaking to a lot of the community leaders, people who know Jackson or have heard of him. And I think we may be able to, well, create something of a groundswell of support for the man.
Good.
Justice is not being done. Didn't even have to spend money on this bottle, he says.
I stare at the bottle. That may have been for the best.
So what did all of you find out? Did you confirm his innocence?
I wish. I know he's innocent, but... And I dump the file down. We have a lot to get through.
Oh gosh, let me pour you a drink, Shelley. Rupert gives your back a rub and places a glass in your hand, Shelby. It'll be all right. We'll get him out of this. We've been through some scrapes, haven't we?
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
But the electric chair, he says, speaking for a touch too long, and he scowls ghastly, just ghastly. And Arturo says, Rupert! A rare moment where Arturo is speaking up. Sorry, sometimes I talk without thinking. Please, so paperwork, and so one would assume you will rummage through it.
Yes.
Well, Felix, you see the card for Emerson Imports?
Yes, and seeing that, I will relay my findings as well. Emerson Imports. This is what Lieutenant Poole was looking into before Captain Foster and his men stopped him. There's something called the Juju House. It seems to be a place where a lot of artifacts are being sold to a very select clientele. Perhaps a clientele that might, well, want to carve in symbols into people's foreheads before killing them. We should investigate that place. And I happen to know at exactly what time every day the owner is out of the building. Would make for a pretty good time to do a little looking around.
And I'll flip the card over, and Jackson wrote this name down, this Silas Nguame. So that's someone else we should look into.
I tell you what, says Rupert. I'll actually make myself useful for once. Back in a jiff, and he runs off. And while you continue talking, he then returns about 5 minutes later. Well, you can't say Rupert Carruthers does nothing. Well, I tracked down that lovely little girl, Georgiana. She showed me how to use the telephone. Obviously, I know how to use a telephone, but she was so sweet. The angel of a child. I think she wanted to feel important. And I spoke to the operator. I tried to find out. Please connect me to Silas and Kwame. It seemed a far-fetched way of identifying the man. But I said, New York? Any narrowing it down? And I said, nope. The operator seemed a bit frustrated with me. Sorry, I know you don't need the full rundown, but I'll cut the long story short. Silas Kwame is the proprietor of your Juju house.
Very good find.
I spoke to him briefly, just, chit-chat, really, asking where he gets his imports from. But anyway, I didn't get anything I could say of real note, and I don't think he was that interested in speaking to me. It might have been the accent.
Yes.
Good find, Rupert.
Thank you. He looks quite pleased with himself.
Okay. As we are just going over everything, I'm going to start a master list for any questions that we need to direct specifically back towards Jackson Elias. And I'll just, pull out a blank piece of paper. Any high-value questions of clarity that we need, we can direct that way. But my access to him is going to be limited more and more, I'm sure, and delayed with his current condition. So we should only lean that direction if absolutely necessary.
I understand. Although I think he left us a lot, but I think we may want to make sure if we can get access to his original room. I don't know if he sent everything to his publisher.
His original room, I wonder if we can get back into 410.
Something else is apparently Jackson's been traveling all over the world looking into this. He even went as far as Shanghai.
Oh.
And at one point in time called from Egypt. So if we're going to retrace his steps, we need to seriously think about funding.
Arturo pouts and strikes his hand. Horizontal. Impossible.
Impossible?
You're... and he gestures a little at Rupert. Well, go on. You don't need to be shy about speaking up, Arturo. Jackson being in all these places. He was with us in South America. And he was in New York multiple times having fun with Miss Hopper. And yet somehow takes a ship from New York to... well, all of these places, he says, looking through the documents. China. And... let's think. If this is where Lantern Street is, it says Shanghai. There is Cairo, and London. Within a year? Arturo shrugs. I think he must have other good friends, no?
That is an interesting point.
He must. Perhaps there are allies that we can locate. People who might be able to help us with this.
Agreed. He directed me to one person for sure, Erica Carlisle.
The sister of the Carlisle expedition?
He doesn't think they're dead. And he specifically suggested that we touch base with her, and if his intelligence is correct, and it likely is, she's still in New York. And funds won't be an issue. Jackson opened up his accounts to us for any accommodations for travel or investigation that we may need.
No, that's good.
That's interesting because Jackson was writing a book about the expedition, and there were some concerns about whether it would get published because they were worried about being sued by Erica Carlisle. So, if he had a good relationship with her, you'd think he would have reassured the publisher on that point.
I don't know if he had a good relationship with her or not, and I'm like thumbing through the paperwork really fast, just like looking between pages 7 and 9 to see if I can get some clarity. I don't know that he specified that he had a relationship with her, or if she was just someone that knew more about the expedition than what we know currently.
Yeah, there is no indication in what he was writing to you, although it would be a perfectly fair inference for Shelby to pick up on, that Erica and Jackson had any kind of positive relationship. But he certainly seems to think that she might know something about the fate of the Carlisle expedition.
Okay. So she's not an agent, she's a lead.
Or possibly both.
You just don't know.
Yeah.
But with this amalgamation of information, you now have leads pointing yourselves towards a shipping company in the Juju House. You have leads pointing you to Erica Carlisle, and let us not forget Dr. Mordecai Lemming if you want to know more about African death cults. There are more besides, indeed. There are various avenues you can explore in this campaign, in this chapter of this campaign, but that is sufficient for now. And here is where we shall end our episode of Masks of Nyarlathotep.
You have listened to an episode of Red Moon Roleplaying, where we play Masks of Nyarlathotep for Chaosium's Call of Cthulhu 7th Edition. Joining us as our keeper is none other than our dear friend Matthew Dawkins, and we were also joined by Bridgett Jeffries and Eddy Webb. The music was made by Aegersonus and Halgrath, and we've also used Cryochamber's Lovecraftian compilation albums. All of this with the permission of Cryochamber. Check out their website at cryochamber.bandcamp.com or their YouTube channel for some moody dark ambient for your gaming table. We would like to give massive thanks to our champions of the Red Moon: Martin Heuschober, Simon Cooper, Julia, Camilla, Bob Lange, Cameron, Graham Barey, Doug Thomson, Lily, Maciej, Black Templar, Dennis Sadecki, and Leonhardt for their generous support. You would of course also like to thank all of our other patrons. Without your support, this show would not be possible. If you want to support our work, please check us out on Patreon. You can get access to bonus campaigns for Cult of the Lost, Call of Cthulhu, Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, and Warhammer 40k Imperium Maledictum there. And you can also get early and raw access to all of our recordings, and hear your name read on the show as a champion of the Red Moon, as well as even play some Cult with us. Most importantly, that support is what keeps the show going, so do check us out there. Thank you again for listening, and remember, I am the last. I will tell the audient void.